Hey, Troy Martin, graduate of you, a force to be reckoned with. It was great working with you, and you offered to come back and share with whoever might be interested what led you to join us for Force and how things are going since. Welcome.
Thank you, Dove. I appreciate that. And yes, I was more than happy to come back and give you a little bit of an update. Also, fill out some maybe questions you had about why I landed here and kind of how the Force program was beneficial for me. And I guess I'll start with I love the way
Just one
you
thing.
had.
Let's
Yeah,
first start. Let's start with who are you? What do you do? Because what you do is actually different. It's
that
it,
okay. That's fair.
it is different,
Yeah,
and I do recall it's different than probably what 99.999 people in the world do. But not only that, but I remember when you first reached out to me, and I said let's talk because I wasn't sure that it was the right thing for you. Right? Remember that?
I do. And my first reaction to your request to make sure I was a good fit from your perspective helped me feel that if you thought I would be able to succeed with the program, then it was sold at that point for me, because most times people will be more than happy to take your money and then figure out later whether there's a good fit or not. And I appreciated your because I'm the same way. I mean, when I work with a customer, sometimes it's hey, I'm not the right guy here, and here's why. So
Yeah.
my business is different. As I've been through a force to be reckoned with, I've learned that. I didn't know going in, but I install central central vacuum cleaning systems in people's homes. And so I'm trying to transition my business from one that is primarily a work with new construction, and move that over to working with people with existing homes. And it's a tough thing to get that marketplace, people living in an existing home, to understand that they also can have a retrofitted system. So I wanted to see if your marketing magic would help me, and I knew I was going to have to do a lot of work, but I was willing to do that if it was able to help me transition my business to where to do more of what I wanted to do and less of what I don't want to do. And that's how I wanted to deploy your program.
All right, great. So let's go back. So you heard something about it. You read something about it. You reached out to me. We talked. Okay. Well, what was going on in your business really at the time that led you to be looking for something? Like what wasn't working?
Well, yeah, absolutely. What wasn't working for me is that I didn't have that steady stream of repeatable homeowners who understood that they could have this. Mostly what I found was I wasn't getting that type of opportunity in the frequency and amount that I wanted. I wasn't able to transition my business to that line and have sufficient amount of it to shut down other parts or transfer other parts of my business to other people. I don't have employees. I don't want employees. And I didn't want to work directly with home builders. I sell wholesale to others who do that. And so I wanted to be able to turn that part of my business off and push it into my wholesale side, but spend my personal time in my business working on just those types of customers that are retrofit. And you had this thing where it sounded like the steady stream of clients. That sounded like what I'm looking for. So those words, that steady stream of ideal clients, that, and for me, it's a steady stream of customers, but
Right.
that's what was the initial hook.
Right. And that's the difference that I wanted to highlight. It's not that, I mean, in many ways, every business is the same, but most of the people that we work with, not all of them, but most are some kind of consultant, expert, and so on. Now you have an expertise, and the reason why I believed it would be, the similarities were that you needed to educate your potential customers ahead of time and build a quick relationship before they'd be ready to move with you. Right. So
That's
those are the
absolutely,
similarities.
yeah, yes.
And that's why I
Those were
felt
the similarities.
that it would be a fit, although it was important that we talk first because, we need to be clear whatever it was. Anyway, so we got started and share a little bit of what it was like working with us in UA Force to be reckoned with. And then, what happened after? Like, what have you been doing?
Yeah, fantastic. Working with the program, I like the structure of the way you have things set up. So I'll say that first. It really appealed to me. It is very similar to the way that I learned a very defined selling system that I made a few adjustments to that fit me personally. So I like the idea of, one, we're going to spend some energy and some time up front. We're going to front load the process with a great deal of what I'll call heavy lifting, but we're going to solve and get 80% of what we can get in the first few weeks. And then, because it's an iterative process, we're going to tweak that, experiment, try things, see what works best, and incorporate. And at the end of a year of a sequence of what I'll call small group get-togethers and using technology through forums to work with a small group of the same type of people over a period of a year, we should be able to really nail down specifically what's going to work best for me, and that has been true. So I like the setup of the way you go about it. It's that small group, and yet if you really need one-on-one, it's available. It's not a lecture. It's not an ebook that you're purchasing and you're kind of on your own. It's not a seminar where you go and you get all pumped up and you spend a weekend away or whatever, and you come back and Monday morning the phone rings and it's all gone. I mean, there's this recurring aspect to it. And so when I was back in the day, when I was training salespeople and coaching them, one of the things we always pounded into their head was, you can't learn what you need to learn to be really proficient at selling in your environment with your personality by going to a seminar. It takes this constant work over an extended period of time. And you brought that aspect to the table with your program.
And I'll say it's also not a course. I mean, courses are very big and it has its place. But my view is that when it comes to creating a consistent flow of ideal clients, most people already know most of what they need to know. And it's not about more information right now. At this point, it's about more deeply understanding the things that you've already learned. And that's what we help you do, not by telling it to you again, although we do have some, there is a minimal aspect of training, but by having you do it and give you direct feedback to everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're very proud of the hand holding and the level of attention that we give. And you touched on that. Thank you. Okay. So you can add to it if you want. Yeah.
Well, I would add by saying the results I've gotten have been tremendous. And some of them were, as you just mentioned, painfully obvious to a casual observer. And that's what a coach should be doing. Like you say, most times when I was coaching salespeople, everything they needed was within them. They just didn't know which tool to take out of the box, or that they had the tool at all, or they forgot to apply it. And so it was a reinforcement kind of a thing. So for me, the results were, you helped me to know how to better define the message that would reach the person, and how to get them to take what you call an action step, or to get them to move. I knew those things, and I've deployed them a lot in face-to-face environments, but I never had a mechanism that allowed me to put something out there and then have people respond to it. And I had a way to market them. And the biggest change for me, honestly, was really the idea of how to take an existing customer and drive a referral process through them. So the two things that have happened for me since going through a force to be reckoned with, have been that I opened up a box that had been sitting on my desk for many years. I didn't really even know what was in it, but it was a list of addresses where my father had put systems into homes over 20 and 30 years. I just started going through that list and direct mailing to them. And that drove all kinds of the type of business that I wanted. But you gave me the right tools when I did that mailing, or when I made those calls, you gave me the right tools to be able to reach them in a way that helped. The other thing I started...
Tools in terms of the right messaging, is that what you mean? Or in terms of what?
Very right, because left to my own devices, I would have been straight into a very much of a sales type of a process. In my world, that would mean I would be seeing if they have a pain of some type that I can solve. And that's not quite I mean, your wording is very similar to mine. That was also part of the allure here is, a problem that they have and don't want, or a result that they want and can't get. And so it's very similar, but the messaging needs to be different for me, I found, at that step. And that was the key to the puzzle for me that I did not have.
Right. Excellent. Good. So do you mind sharing like a little bit of what you're actually doing? Like, what is it that like you found a list of past customers, your father used to run the business, you took it over. Uh,
Mhm.
um, do you mind just sharing a little bit? Help us see what that referral system that you've set up looks like, as much
Well,
as you're willing to share. And,
yeah, no, I'm totally willing to share that. In my market, there really isn't, in terms of competition, there isn't really anybody that wants to do what I'm doing, which is go into someone's home and be able to install inside the wall cavity tubing and pipes and wires and hoses in a manner that makes it look as though the home had that system installed from new construction. It's a difficult
right.
thing. No one else really wants
And
to
I'll
do that.
emphasize that
But
you do not knock down walls. I mean, you're installing a central vacuum system without knocking down walls. I didn't know that that was doable, and that was actually one of the things that most of your ideal customers didn't know about.
that was exactly it. That was part of the key messaging. Was the two big myths that I was having years of struggle overcoming, where people would assume that their house was built, they could not have this. It would either be impossible without a major construction project, which they didn't want to do, or they would only call me when they were doing a large addition or a renovation. Or they also assumed then that it would be costing 2 to 3 times more than it really did, because they don't know how to elegantly go in and to drill in very specific places to make the system look like it's been there since new without having to do any painting when we're done. So you helped me with messaging, getting those two myths broken down for somebody, and that was really helpful. The
That's really
real, yeah, go ahead.
remember that thought. Remember that the real right. But you brought up an important point that I want to highlight for anybody listening is that um, very often when you're in it and like you're in
Hmm.
it, uh, you understood that there's this myth, and you came to me with those myths. Like but with someone on the outside who has the messaging skills, you really can kind of then take a step back and figure out, okay, how do we actually address that? And that's what we did, because uh, there were things we came up with, and honestly, it was just going back a number of months. I don't remember what they were. Uh, so we just got on, we're talking about it, and you don't have to go into it now, unless you actually, you could, if you want to. Maybe someone
Well,
listening wants to hire you.
the main piece that really helped me was we were working on the hand raising free offer, and you suggested a good title would be "How to Convince Your Spouse You Deserve the System," and then using some of those myth busting messaging bits that we worked together and I tried out and they worked great. That to me was a really tough concept, this idea of how to convince your spouse you deserve this. I struggled with that, but it was exactly the right thing. I was willing to try it, and
Good for you.
it is a message that worked great. And I think you had pulled that from a prior client, but it worked for me really, really well. And
Well,
that's a piece that I would have never come up with.
yeah, years ago, I came up with something similar for a client doing something very different. But the reason why I think it really mattered was because I had asked you, I said, have you found that, and this goes to deeply understanding your ideal client, your ideal customer, really understanding the problems they have and the want results they want to have. It's a wonderful phrase. People quote it back to me and tell me that it was a light bulb moment for them. And that's the beginning
Hmm.
of the journey, not the end. Right? If you really start to begin, they don't understand that often, right? But when you really start to get into the mind and heart of the ideal client, I don't remember exactly what we talked about, but I'm pretty sure I asked you. I said, "Well, your ideal client, is it usually, the husband, the wife? I think
Right.
is it probably the wife, right? Um,
Hmm.
and like so, they probably want it, but like, what's holding them back? Like, there were certain things that you thought the problem they had no want result they want to have. You made a list of things that were issues, and at some point we came up with, well, what about just convincing your spouse that their husbands that this is something that they should put money into, right? And and it kind of clicked, like you said, like you resisted a bit. What were you concerned about? You just what about that did you not? find?
Well, I think, and the exact wording I ended up with was how to convince your spouse and yourself.
Okay.
I think we added that piece in,
Yeah,
or we started
right.
with that, or we took it out. I can't remember, but yeah, it just wasn't a concept that had ever entered my mind. It wasn't, someone convincing themselves just didn't register to me, but it certainly registered out there, and that's what mattered. So my resistance was just personal. It's kind of like when you're in a selling situation, people will buy for their reasons, not mine, not yours. You have to uncover what those reasons are, and this was an exact example of that. Didn't make sense to me personally from a marketing standpoint, but I'm pretty new to marketing. The taglines and messaging and selling, and getting pain, knowing when I can or can't close for how much. That piece I have, but these marketing hooks and the approach to it is what was missing for me. And you systematized that and stepped me through a process that is repeatable. That was key. The biggest change for me was in accomplishing my objective. And I'm not totally there, but we're getting there. I'm on track, and it's going to happen sometime in the next few months.
Excellent.
The really key thing for me and meeting my objective that I initially set with joining the a force to be reckoned with, was that I took the customers that I don't want, and I invested some time with them, and then I plugged them into a system that drove the kinds of customers I do want. Okay, and that was my whole objective. So the way I did that was, when I would do a system for a new homeowner, brand new construction, instead of leaving a note on how to use the system, I left everything in the box and said, when you're ready to clean your home for the first time, call me, and I'll come over and show you what you have and how it works. Because I didn't personally sell them. The builder sold that system. So one, I don't know why they bought. Two, they don't really know how to use what's there. In most cases, they're new to this central vacuum thing. And three, I can use it to learn why they bought, and then drive referral over to the other side of my business. So the way that works in steps in the map that you
I'd
helped
forgotten
build,
about all this, and now it's coming back to me. Like, yeah, we did some good work there. That was good. Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating how well it's worked. So what happens is, people move into their home, and movers shove boxes in the garage, and they unpack furniture and hang pictures and whatever. And then they're like, oh yeah, we spent money on this thing. I wonder, we need to figure out how to use it. So they call me, and I walk in, and like, hey, welcome to your new home. This is very exciting. Hey, why did you buy? I'll just ask them, and then I'll swallow my tongue, and I'll shut up until they tell me. It's hard for a salesperson to do that. But I've learned amazing things about why people bought when I wasn't selling them, and they're different. So that's really helped me on the sales side with other people. So being willing to listen.
You don't mean why they buy their house. You mean why do they buy the central vac?
Why? Right. Because often
because it was an option.
It was an option, and it's often an expensive option. And they'll tell me things that I would have never tried in a million years to sell somebody else with. People buy for their reasons, not yours.
Right.
So I gathered that, and then I said, I'll tell you what. In 3 months, I'm going to show you how this all works. We're going to go over everything, make you comfortable with it, and in 90 days, 3 or 4 months, I'm going to call you, and I'm going to ask you how it's going. I'm just going to do like a little checkup. Scale of 1 to 10, give me a temperature reading, whatever. I want to see how you're doing. And if you're happy with the system, I want to know why. If you have any problems at all, as soon as you have a question or concern, I want you to call me so I can fix it for you. And what will happen is, at the end of that period of time, they'll call me and they'll say, I love this thing. It's the best thing we put in our new home. I had no idea. And I'll say, great. I'd like to stop by. So I'll go back again after they've been there, and I'll make a point of writing out why they love it, what they love about it, and so forth. And then I'll go through the marketing and selling and referral process that we devised, which is really, here's my ideal customer. So I'll explain to them who my ideal customer is, and then I'll ask them, who do you know that has this problem that they don't want, or is looking for this result in their home that they can't get? And I'll help that new construction homeowner to understand that I really want people already living in an existing home. And then I'll invite them to bring 2 or 3 of those people to their home. And I'll come in, I'll demo the system, I'll buy a bottle of wine if they want to have their girlfriends over, and I'll show up and do like a home party on central cleaning systems for some very well qualified friends of an existing happy customer. And that is the flip for me to move from where I was to where I wanted to be.
And how many of those have you done?
I've done 5 of those, and I typically want 2 or 3, and it's typically girlfriends. You know, it's like, oh, well, Susie has pets, and, you know, Anna's grandkids have asthma, and they have breathing issues. And, you know, and so once they learn what my marketing hooks are and what my selling points are and why people typically buy and how we can do this and what the pricing is, they can pre-qualify instead of bringing in someone who's probably already been to their new home and is probably already familiar with the product. What they didn't know was kind of what the pricing would be.
And that they could have the same thing.
And that they could have it in their existing home. Yeah. So my close rate there is 50% of people they invite, I'll close on the spot.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I typically I really have to go into that home and look at it to nail down the pricing. But the way I do it is I'll just set them up and say, you have probably all the information that you really need to know whether you'd like to invite me in to get the details specific to your home, the actual structure of your house and what we can or can't do. And I need to see that to be completely sure. So what I do is if they're a go at that point, then about half of them will commit right there on the spot. As I'm, you know, with my hand on the doorknob as I'm leaving, I'll stop and then I'll ask, okay, as I'm leaving, either of you or any of you want to invite me in to look at the specifics of your home? And generally, well, half so far, half have said yes. So then I'll go to their home and I'll set it up where I'm going in the morning. I'm going to write out a proposal, you know, agreement. I'm going to get detailed not to exceed pricing. If there's any construction work at all related to this, we know that up front. I have the pricing, I have all their tools to pick out all the pieces that they want. I can elegantly design a system for them, the way they live, the way they clean, and their home. I'll do that in the morning. Take me about an hour. And if it's a go, I have everything in the truck. I'll just get started, you know, and we'll finish it sometime tomorrow afternoon or even today, depending on the size of the house. And that blows them away. But then I have a morning appointment. By 9:30, I know I have this job and we're going to do it right now. And they don't have to put on a schedule for a couple of weeks from now. So I'll pick a day where I know I can go in the morning and do this job. And if they say no, I have other stuff I can backfill. So it works out really, really well. And then once they're in, I put down that 90-day timeline, and they already know that this is what's expected. This is how Troy sells. And they already know who to tell me to call. You know, so it just perpetuates at that point because they've been trained. This is how I bought. This is how he does it. Right. I didn't go to the internet. I didn't search for this. I didn't search for that. Hey,
I love it.
And I knew all that stuff, but you helped me define how, from a marketing standpoint, to incorporate it. And
this wasn't our first. Just to make it clear, and to make it clear, this wasn't our first idea. Like we worked through several things. You know, we don't have to go with what they were, but like this was. It all sounds so elegant and obvious right now, but when you tell, but we did work through a number of different ideas over several weeks until we came up with this, or even maybe longer. Of some of the the after program support, perhaps it went into. I don't remember. But that's really good.
Yeah.
And I know that there'll probably be some people thinking, well, that's a lot of work. And what do you say to that?
Well, I would say, yeah, it is work. But if it's in your business and you have a passion for what you're doing, you have all the knowledge and intuition inside of you. You know, kind of like in a selling situation, you should rely on your gut and say in sales manner, the right thing will happen at the right time. Most of the failures I've seen with selling are you not willing to say what needs to be said. Yeah, there's work here, but it's fun. It was challenging the amount and the style, but I knew what I was getting into, and I wanted to go to work on my business. Like I've always been learning new skills and investing. So if someone was out there and said, it's a lot of work, I would say, yeah. So if you want to succeed, it's work.
And that's true. Like everything is work. I don't. There's no. Yeah. It's going to take time and or money, almost always both. Uh, Excuse me. In
Absolutely.
this case, it's not costing you anything. It's costing you some of your time. You're doing what you enjoy, right? Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah, the
That's,
work was challenging. It made me think through my business in a different way than I had before. Uh, through that process, I like that you had a structured process to step through. There wasn't just koosh ball in the air and what do we do now. It was very very well laid out. The work was challenging in the sense that I had to think differently about my business and about my customers. I hadn't been doing that. So yeah, it took time. And I like the weekly. This is when we're gonna handle this, and you need to have these things done, and here they are, and here's some worksheets, and go at it. If you get jammed up, you'll post it into the forum. Someone will give you a hand. That's a very effective way, and that is, my background is in sales training and coaching, and that's exactly how we would do it. It's very one-on-one. It has to be, or nothing sticks. So yeah.
yeah. All right. Excellent. And I will also say that, yeah, it's a lot of work, but anybody who's tried anything already knows that it's going to be, there's no easy button in marketing and sales and business. And what's beautiful about this is that you get to do what you enjoy anyway. And I mean, you got customers for life. Now, obviously, they're not going to come back. There is some service, so there's some ongoing work, and that they come back to you from time to time, or they need a replacement part or something. So there is some ongoing revenue, right, from time to time.
Yeah.
But the main
Yeah.
thing is, like, you're just building this loyalty and this referral basis, and it really could grow as big as you want it to be. And you have a target. I know, like, you're not looking to build a multi 7-figure business here. You're looking to build something that gives you the right balance of income and life. So,
That's exactly
Troy,
right. Yeah.
this has been a great case study. I really appreciate you sharing all that with us. And
Sure
any
thing.
final thoughts? Anybody who's thinking about doing you a force to be reckoned with, what would you say?
I would say if you're concerned about the workload here, then you're not as passionate about your business as you should be. I would recommend you a force to be reckoned with to anyone that has had struggles with getting their marketing messaging figured out. If you're someone that's continually investing in your skills and in yourself, this is a great program to get that part of it handled.
And I'll also just say, like, what we came up with for you is not like anything we do with anybody else. And just in case anyone's thinking, like, it's going to be different for everybody, depending on what they're selling into who. So this is just an example of how we try to keep, before this, you've done other things, right? I mean, you did online stuff, right? You paid
Yeah,
for
I
a new
had
website. Yeah. What are some of the things you've
right.
tried?
Yeah, well, exactly. I had again the business was built on taking a demo system and putting it into a local mall during a builder's weekend. And we used to drive the business forward using that as a method. Well, the builder show changed and it moved and it was no longer effective. And there was never a way so that we had found to systematically drive forward to the type of customers that we wanted. And so I had spent thousands of dollars on radio, and all I got was, "Oh, I heard you on the radio." All my existing customers said, "I heard you on the radio." I didn't get new customers calling. We put together a new and different website. I had tried some search engine optimization. We had, there's a lot. We did some direct mailing, and all those things were kind of. I was looking. I was just searching and trying different things because I knew eventually something would work. It would stick, and the pieces would fall together. But I invested years and a lot of time and money trying different things that each sounded like it should work and just didn't quite. And this program, You, a force to be reckoned with, gave me a method to follow, a sequence of steps to take, and took time and it took energy, but at the output gave me exactly what I was looking for, and it took care of and it helped me see why those other things that I had done and tried failed, and I learned from each of those. I learned a lot from each of those prior experiences working with Dove, going through this process.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'll just say this. Well, no, the reason I asked that last point was because we we don't treat everybody exactly the same, although there is largely going to be similarity, that's for sure. But that's my son's phone. I don't know if you can hear that,
Oh, I
but
didn't hear anything.
ignore it because we're almost done. Okay, good. So having to have it for him. Anyway, so but the point is that I want people to understand that we're looking for the shortest path to your clients. We're looking for the shortest path to your ideal clients, and and the way you described it, that's how we came up with it for you.
Hmm.
And it's largely about relationships. People are looking to leverage things before they have them working manually, so to speak. They want to automate things. I think automation is wonderful. I think leverage is very, very key. And what you've done is you've leveraged the installation, the relationship you've already had, turning each one into two or three
Right.
more, right? So we're always looking for leverage and then some automation, but let's not go all the way to automation, because for most service-based business, it's not going to be enough. There are, of course, times when it works, but
Right.
for most people, it's not the right thing. Troy, thank
Right.
you very much. I'm
Yep.
going to cut it. We're going to wrap it up over here.
Very
Have a
good.
great new year, and thanks a lot for
Likewise.
joining us.
Thanks for the call, and it's good hearing your voice. And I can look forward to continuing working on my business with the skills you gave me here.
I'm excited to continue working with you. All right, thanks.